bueno a todos, gente, aquí estamos en el canal de Wolf y hoy volvemos con las ARK Survival Stories subtituladas al español, como ya saben, únicamente en este canal. Y bueno, ya pasamos por una parte del recorrido de The Island y estuve leyendo los comentarios del capítulo pasado y hoy intentaré no hablar tanto. La verdad es que hablé bastante el capítulo pasado, recibí bastantes insultos por eso, así que relájense un poco. El verdadero weón es el que ve un contenido que no le gusta. Y realmente, si quieren ver este contenido sin mi cara y sin mis reacciones y sin mis palabras y sin mis tonterías, pueden ir a ver los videos de Neddy de Noodle, pero no estarán subtitulados, ya que es solamente en este canal, mis panas. Sin más rollos, vamos para allá. Ok, mis panas, aquí habíamos quedado con Nerva, ¿ok? Y volvemos con Rockwell, a ver. ¿Qué nos dice?
Top to bottom. The weather's been marvelous. I found excellent floral samples, and the local hunters had more woolly rhino horns than you could shake a stick at. I even managed to find volunteers for my latest experiment. It turns out that it was simply a matter of linguistics. Those who are wary of experimental potions are much more receptive to experimental food. Once my endothermic paste was rechristened Fryer Curry, people were clamoring to test it.
Fría curry.
It has moderate nutritional value, so it's not technically a deception.
Creo que ese curry era para que no te diera frío.
In the name of progress. That's all. Perfectly moral.
Perfectamente moral, comunicativo,
Sadly,
de
my
todo.
Fryer Curry trials cannot begin immediately.
Bien,
as the
Rockwell.
volunteers have a much more difficult journey to Rockwell Manor than I. After all, I couldn't very well carry every one of them on Archimedes. Yes, the Argentavis could clutch one in his talons, but I've always found the practice to be barbaric. The rest of the Ark may be embroiled in feudal
El
savagery.
Argentavis lo agarra con la boca y la
Gentleman
espada.
always maintains his class
Puede ser
and
barbárico.
dignity. At any rate, I must have my assistants renovate the guest compound. Naturally, I would never let strangers into the manor proper, but there's no reason their stay should not reflect my civilized standards.
Qué guapa la
Having
cinemática,
readily
¿no?
available subjects has helped my experiments tremendously, even if their numbers dwindled over time. Not only was I able to curb the side effects of my Fryer Curry's endothermic properties, but I managed to bring out an additional benefit of the mixture. Now, it also lowers the subject's metabolism, letting them go longer without needing food. Marvelous!
Eso supongo que también se aplica dentro del juego. Casi nunca he hecho ningún curry, así que no sé.
I imagine that I could reverse the effects of the curry and create a concoction to aid survival in extreme heat as well. I must find more volunteers.
Ok, quiere hacer un curry para el extremo calor.
I decided to seek out volunteers.
La nueva legión. Esta es la tribu de Nerva.
Island's larger tribes. I thought that surely they would be willing to help after I patiently moderated so many of their frivolous
Rockwell se fue para allá.
How idealistic of me. Instead, they have yet another favor to ask. Apparently, there's a new tribe that's behaving rather aggressively, and no one can successfully negotiate with its leader. So naturally, they have turned to me. It's rather bothersome, but I can't touch their logic. If Sir Edmund Rockwell cannot reason with this Nerva fellow, then who can?
Claro, Rockwell es la entidad neutral, entonces es aliado de muchas otras tribus. Ahí estamos con Nerva.
At least for now. We need time to gather our strength and plan our road to conquest.
Te quiere matar a todo el mundo, güey. Nerva de mierda.
Augustus did not unite the empire by rushing into battle after all. Such things take time, and more importantly, information. As I write, my scouts are mapping out the surrounding lands and observing any tribes that may oppose us. I have no doubt they are not all like the Black Thumbs. One could very well prove to be my Mark Antony, and when I find him, I will be prepared.
Si no me equivoco, están contra los tiburones pintados.
Take his time to plan. I realize that comfort breeds complacence. So as my scouts range across the beaches and jungles, I have made sure to lead our main force out on regular raids. Our targets have been weak. Mostly small villages or unsuspecting convoys.
Ah, no, pues no.
But they resist enough to keep my men's instincts sharp.
Violentos.
Keep their meager spoils of these exercises has helped morale as well. Our actions have not gone unnoticed, however. My scouts say many tribes are avoiding our territory altogether now. Good. A fearsome reputation will serve the Legion well.
Ok,
I was
mira.
told this escort mission would be
Está Meijing.
dangerous,
Y ahí
but
está
I
la
had
bandera
not
de
expected to fight a legitimate
la Legión
army.
también, de la nueva Legión.
Fortunately, I was riding ahead of the main column and spotted them first.
Ahí están.
After signaling for the convoy to change course, I harassed the enemy from their flanks to draw their
Ah, se
attention
encontraron con
and
Meijing.
retreated in a different direction.
Y Meijing los atacó.
Even that cost me. Many of Wuzui's brothers were injured,
Wuzui.
and some were killed. Previously, my enemies here fought wildly or scattered when attacked. But
Okay.
these men had discipline. The leader
Disciplina,
of the convoy
sí.
was very
La única
grateful.
wea que dice el Nerva.
Apparently, few survive an encounter with this new legion. I should be wary of them in the future.
Ok, ok. O sea, Meijing les dio
Who could
pelea.
have imagined that a simple
Ahí
convoy
está.
would give the new Legion its first taste of adversity?
El convoy de Meijing.
For today, the
¿Lo cagó?
idea would seem absurd.
Increíble.
They must have seen our approach, because just as we spotted our prey, we found our left flank beset upon by a pack of beasts. Though the creatures were smaller in
Los
size
enanos
and
de
number,
Wuzui.
they struck fast and struck together, and they never lingered. By the time we chased them off for good, the convoy was long gone. Impossibly. I spotted but a single rider throughout it all.
Solo una jinete.
Who is she?
Ahí está. ¿Quién es
If
ella?
Mars has blessed me, does
Meijing, mi
Minerva
pana.
harry me? No. I was simply unprepared. I will not be again.
¿Viste el primer fracaso de Nerva?
It seems that some of our neighbors
Se le va a
have grown
quedar.
weary of our raiding. Today I received an envoy from the Golden Arrows, who proposed a lucrative trade agreement between our two
Las flechas
tribes,
doradas.
with the caveat that we never encroach on the territory or convoys of the Golden Arrows or any of their allies. I have no interest in trade agreements, but I do know how to seize an opportunity. So instead of accepting right away, I propose that we ratify the agreement with his tribe's leaders on a neutral site. I have planned long enough.
Ok.
It is time for the new Legion to resume its march.
Mente tiburón el Nerva. Mira hacia el futuro.
News of my rather definitive response to the Arrow's proposal has spread quickly, but few seem keen to act on it. Who can blame them? Without their leaders, the Arrows quickly folded, and the new Legion grew significantly in power practically overnight. The other tribes only managed to interrupt their cowering long enough to send another envoy. A man named Edmund Rockwell. Given
Ahí
the
está
results
Rockwell de
of the
nuevo,
last one I
pana.
received, I almost didn't believe it. But apparently this man is special.
Es
The other
especial.
tribes seem to respect him as a neutral party, an expert on the island. We shall see.
Nerva y Rockwell amigos.
Well, I found the report on Mr. Nerva to be rather exaggerated. And as an Englishman, one might imagine that I'd view Roman leadership with some disdain. Yet, in my experience,
Recordemos que
I found
Nerva es un
Mr.
general
Nerva to be
romano
both honest and
del ejército.
intellectually engaging. In fact, after a lengthy conversation, I dare say that Mr. Nerva has the right of it when it comes to this island's politics. As the Romans created Pax Romana, perhaps this new legion will create Pax
Lo voy
Sparta.
haciendo ejercicio ahí abajo.
Even if it
Increíble.
doesn't, I doubt it will harm my research. So I see no reason to interfere in this particular squabble.
Uy, 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 uy. Nerva está afectando a Rockwell para mal. Rockwell está haciendo la mirada gorda. No sé si se decía así. La vista gorda, eso. Se nos va cayendo el Rockwell. Va camino a convertirse en un monstruo, señor.
I did not expect much from Edmund Rockwell, but he has surprised me. He has a curious way of speaking, but he clearly possesses a razor-sharp intellect and a wide breadth of knowledge. Though we have only met for half a day, I gained invaluable information about this island, which is apparently called the ARK.
Ahí está. El
I shall have
ARK.
to send a scout to pinpoint where Rockwell lives. In addition to his expertise on the ARK, he is known to create elixirs that have extraordinary effects. It would behoove me to keep those out of my enemy's hands.
Ok, quiere hacer alianza con Rockwell ahora.
Rockwell's
Y
recommendation,
adueñarse de
I've
él.
headed south to start
Y esta es Helena.
an in-depth study of the island's marine life with the help of a tribe called the Painted Sharks.
Los
Because
tiburones
the
pintados, ahí
ecosystem
están.
of the ocean that surrounds
Soy
the
fan.
island is separate from the ecosystem on the mainland, correlating patterns between them might help me isolate and understand this island's scientific abnormalities.
Ok.
Also, after freezing my ass off for so long, I could really use an extended stay on a tropical island. Marine biology was never my strongest field, but I do love the ocean. If
De
nothing
acuerdo.
else, it should be beautiful.
Helena era bióloga en
The
Australia.
painted sharks have treated me like I'm the bloody queen since I showed them Rockwell's letter of recommendation. I don't think I've eaten better in my entire time on the island. Not that it's a high bar, I'm a horrible cook. Oh, and they've been of tremendous help with my research, of course. So far, my estimates of the predator-prey balance are consistent with the ecosystems on the mainland.
Ojo, ojo,
The
ojo.
water is simply
Cuidado,
teeming
Helena.
with shoals of megalodons.
Helena
and
Comero,
they are
güey.
extremely aggressive. Perhaps
Extremadamente
that's a side
agresiva.
effect of having limited prey. Sharks aren't known as territorial creatures. I'll have to study them further. Still no answers as to why the megalodons are so territorial, but I was privy to something even more
Son muy
extraordinary.
territoriales. Sí, eso lo podemos ver
Megalodon
dentro del juego
mating
también.
behavior. No one's ever witnessed great whites rooting around back home, so that
Ojo,
alone is
la
monumental.
culiación.
But I got something even better. I know. What could possibly top watching megalodons have a naughty, right? Tracking the female. I was able to observe her for almost the full gestation period. And get this, it only lasts 1 week.
Una semana
1 week.
en gestar la
No wonder
guagua.
the population is so high. These are spitting out pups 44 times the
Mira,
rate of
mira el
Aussie great
tiburón mini.
whites. I
Si no
can
es,
compare
creo
how
ahora
they
el
behave in
bebé
captivity.
tiburón en el ARK.
So, in addition to all of the oddities I found with the wild megalodons, here's the real cherry on top. Taming them is a piece of piss.
Ok.
A bit of training, and they're more obedient than the family dog.
Son más obedientes que los
I've
perros.
heard of sharks getting very rudimentary training over a year or so,
Eso no lo sabía.
but not to this extent. Certainly not so easily.
A ver, no los
Sharks
tiburones
aren't
reales, por favor, no vayan a domesticar tiburones reales por esto. Los del ARK.
mammals or even avians. They're fish. They rely more on instinct.
Claro,
Or, to put
son
it
peces.
simply,
No son
they're not very
mamíferos ni
smart.
nada.
You shouldn't be able to ride one like a jet ski. I'm
Algo
trying to
es
keep an
extraño.
open mind like Rockwell suggested, but this just feels wrong. Well, this seals it. Just when I thought I'd made
cangurito.
some sense of the notes I took while visiting the painted sharks, I spotted the nail in the proverbial coffin. Roos. A whole herd of giant roos were just hopping around the countryside like they'd always been there. As much as I love roos, they just shouldn't be here. Period. They evolved in Oz, and Oz only 60 million years after the dinosaurs were extinct, among a bevy of other marsupials. If I know any genius, it's this one, and Procoptodon should not exist here. This island isn't an ecosystem, it's a zoo.
Zoológico.
How can these tribal leaders be so short-sighted? Yes, the members of their respective tribes who volunteered for my Battle Tartare and Shadow Steak Saute experiments have been experiencing prolonged withdrawal episodes, but can't they
Okay.
see that the benefits outweigh the costs? I create mixtures that can bring out superhuman strength, speed, and coordination in ordinary men, and they can only
Se están
focus on the
enojando con el Rowell.
negatives. Simple-minded, the lot of them. They've even banned their members from partaking in my experiments now. Ridiculous. I'll not let them stand in the way of human progress.
No hagan enojar a Rowell, que si
They may
no,
not understand the importance of my work, but surely my assistants do.
te mete un tentáculo por el culo.
I've decided to take a brief vacation from the laboratory. Well, I said I've decided to, but the whole thing was my assistant Isabel's idea.
La
She
asistente
noticed
Isabel.
that I'd been quite ruffled lately and suggested that I take a bit of time to myself before rushing headlong into my next experiment. Such an observant young woman, that Isabel. She's somewhat lacking as a chemist, but she understands my moods almost better than I do. I dare say that an old-fashioned adventure will do me some good. Nothing like some rigorous recreation to clear the mind. Perhaps I'll go spelunking. Yes, a splendid idea.
Spelunking, para
Just
los que
the
no lo
place.
saben, es investigar y recorrer cuevas, ¿ok?
Absolutely remarkable. When I chose that remote northern cave as the site of my spectacular
Fue la cueva de
spelunking
nieve.
sojourn, I'd never imagined that I'd find such wonders within.
Encontró el
Granted, I
artefacto, al
don't
parecer,
know
¿no?
what this specific wonder does exactly, but it's fascinating to
está.
examine. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
¿Qué chucha es eso?
I don't even recognize the materials that it's composed of, and it's constantly pulsing with some sort of latent energy. What is it? Is it unique, or are there similar artifacts just waiting to be discovered beneath this island's surface?
Pronto lo sabrás, Roku.
My, how invigorating. Isabel was right. This was exactly what I needed. I feel like a young man again. Eureka! My theory was correct. The small podium at the base of the obelisk is definitely responding to the artifact's proximity and
Ahí
vice
está.
versa.
Se nos acerca un
Honestly,
boss,
I feel
puede ser.
foolish for not attempting this sooner. The stylistic similarities between the artifact and the obelisks floating above the island seem so obvious to me now. Clearly, they were created within the same culture and era.
Claro.
Bizarrely, while both the artifact and obelisks are in exquisite condition, there are no other signs of this mysterious civilization. How could that be? What kind of mad society would gallivant about some remote island, building towering structures and stuffing knickknacks into caves before vanishing without a trace? I don't understand it, but it certainly piqued my curiosity.
No sé si se fijaron rápidamente de que Rockwell dijo ¿qué civilización tomaría una isla? O sea, él sigue pensando y ellos supongo que siguen pensando que están en la Tierra, que es un experimento o algo así, no saben que están flotando.
Well, I think I've gotten as far in my studies of the obelisks as my archaeological expertise will take me. A shame, really. This has been such a joyous little diversion that I hate to see it end.
Spelunking.
Oh,
Me encanta esa palabra.
twit. You've forgotten the origins of this little excursion. Spelunking!
Spelunking!
Did you yourself not hypothesize that there may be more artifacts hidden elsewhere on this island?
Pueden haber más artefactos, ¿no?
Surely you can't give up before confirming that. No, certainly not. Nor can I be expected to scour the ARK's caverns alone. Perhaps someone can spelunk in my stead.
Spelunk.
Better yet, perhaps someone has already spelunked.
Am I a mercenary now? I had not given it much thought until I was actually called one.
Una
I
mercenaria.
don't like the title. Mercenaries fight for riches, but I'm just fighting for what I need to survive. That's different, isn't it? When I fought back home, I knew who and what I was fighting for. I knew who my enemies were. Here, I cannot tell. I'm trying to be honorable by defending people and not attacking them. But how can I be certain? I cannot dwell on it. To survive, I must fight on. To return home, I must fight on.
Ok. Parece que Mei Jing está trabajando para tribus.
To tame larger creatures. The speed of my light cavalry was beneficial, but I realized that it was not enough. 100 swift strikes mean nothing if there is no strength behind them. To survive enemies like the new legion, I must be able to strike with power.
Nuevas bestias
I
para el
began
equipo de
with
Mei
ones
Jing.
that look like larger raptors, but with horns on their foreheads.
Raptors más
They
grandes con
balance
cuernos.
strength and
Perfecto.
speed well, and will serve well as the core of my forces.
Se llama Kano Mei Jing.
When I have enough horned raptors, I will add some of the giants.
Ojo.
Maybe then, I'll finally have the strength to find a way home.
Un rexito para la
I'm
familia.
living on an island. Worse, a cursed island. When I managed to tame a great spined lizard and a giant raptor,
Ah, bueno, sí, sí,
I
tal
left
cual.
the jungle to find
Okay.
a way out of these treacherous lands. But I soon found myself traveling in circles. Worse still, I'm told that a magical barrier prevents ships from sailing too far from
La
the
barrera
shore,
mágica.
and birds from flying too high to leave the island.
Bueno, en el juego si vas muy
It is
arriba te
never
mueres.
a matter of strength. There is
Literal.
no path home at all.
No es que no te deje
Woodley
pasar, te
seems
mueres
to sense my
directamente.
unease. These days, I often wake up to find him nestled beside me. At least I'm not trapped here alone. I laughed for the first time in weeks today. A man from a small tribe of fishermen sought to hire me, but he didn't call me by my name. He called me the Beast Queen of the Jungle. I could not keep a straight
La
face.
reina de las bestias.
I suppose I understand this title. Since I failed my expedition, I have staked out a small swath of land to live on more permanently, and the locals know it as my pack's hunting ground. Still, I'm hardly a queen. My castle is a little more than a shack. I'd rather be called a queen than a mercenary though, so I may as well embrace it.
Bueno, esta loca tamea
I
de
wonder
todo el
what
día
Father
1.
would think of me now. Would he be proud of me when I march off to battle? I know he wanted a son. That's why he trained me in secret. Would he accept the Beast Queen instead? Mother wouldn't approve.
Oh.
The other villagers were too desperate to care about my gender.
Recordemos que Meijin viene de una época muy arcaica.
But Mother never forgave me. She wouldn't even look at me now. Should I mind? Those were Meiyin's parents, from Meiyin's life, and sometimes I wonder if that life was even real. Maybe I was always a beast and never a woman. I finally found a beast I cannot command.
Esos dibujos del dossier me encantan, man. Como estilo chino. El giganoto.
Demon. I was stalking a pair of giant raptors, waiting for an opportunity to bring them into my pack, when he tore through the tree line to steal their kill. He dwarfed even the giant raptors in size, and in fury, he surely has no equal in this world. When his foes bit at him, his eyes glowed with hatred, and he struck with renewed vigor. I've never seen such terror. Even I dare not challenge this creature. If I am the Beast Queen, then he is the Demon King.
Demon King. El rey demonio.
Not too long ago, I thought this place was a far-off utopia where I could study all the world's lost wonders. Now that I'm certain it's not natural at all, I have to say, it's lost a lot of luster. Interference from mankind hasn't helped. Most tribes have learned to live in harmony with their slice of the island, but some aren't content with that. One is even trying to conquer all the others. And natural or not, this ecosystem wouldn't be any better off if it's burned down in some great war. The sunrises are still beautiful though. At least nothing can change that.
Super random.
Of all the abnormalities that I've observed, the tame megalodons stick out to me.
It
was almost like they were stray dogs who were re-socialized, as though they had a genetic history of human obedience. Most of my observations have been in the wild, but I think I may learn a thing or two if I observe domesticated creatures more closely. I need to study their diets, their mating patterns, how they socialize with other species, all that. Rumor has it that there's some woman that's tamed a whole mess of them all by herself. So many that they call her the Beast Queen of the Jungle.
Ojito, Helena con Meijin, se
viene.
viene.
Have some useful insights.
Se van a juntar.
A woman named Helena arrived at my camp yesterday, though not to hire me. She said that she was a scholar studying the creatures on this island, and that she wanted to observe my beasts. I turned her away at first, not trusting her intentions. How could I? What mad fool would bother with scholarly pursuits in a place like this? Yet she persisted, and in time, I was convinced of her honesty. I don't know if I made the right decision. Helena is constantly asking strange questions. Why does she need to know so much about my beast's feces and mating behavior?
Le encanta la caca a Helena.
I suppose it was a bit naive of me to think that someone with the moniker of Beast Queen would roll out the red carpet. I guess I got used to all the friendly treatment that being an associate of Rockwell's earned me. She did let me stay at least, and she hasn't instructed her dinosaurs to kill me yet, so that's a positive. Not that she'd really need the dinosaurs. If that glare of hers gets any more intense, I'll probably just burst into flames on the spot. Struth.
Sí, cuidadito con la Meijin, la verdad, Helena.
The raptor excrement with someone watching is harder than you might think.
¿Pero qué necesitáis examinar de la caca, Helena, por favor?
Of these tamed creatures when compared to their wild counterparts. Part of that is the Beast Queen's doing, as she takes them on regular hunting excursions for training purposes. Curiously, they never have to range too far. There is an abundance of prey nearby, despite the size of her pack. That this is held true regardless of her domesticated creatures.
Me encantan las cinemáticas, coño, no puedo parar de decirlo, ¿verdad?
Makes it even more unusual. Oh, and I did finally get
suscríbete, por cierto, si quieres ver más capítulos, amigo.
She's gotten a little less glary too. In hindsight, maybe starting by studying her animal's feces just gave her the wrong impression.
Tiene un fetiche, Helena, con la caca.
The most interesting thing that I've observed about Mei Yin's animals has been what they don't do. They never fight.
Lo que no
More
hace.
creatures that have been domesticated for generations, like cats or dogs, that's normal. But there's a reason zoos keep their animals in separate enclosures. Certain instincts are hard to curb, and there should definitely be more disputes amongst such a diverse group. Mei Yin has even integrated a herd of herbivores into her army, as their thick hides have proven resistant to fire and explosives. Yet despite being surrounded by carnivores, they remain untouched.
Claro.
It doesn't make sense.
Yo no había pensado
That's not
eso.
to take anything away from Mei Yin. She works hard to treat and train her animals well. She's not bad company either. At least when she's not mute and I don't go full biologist. Sometimes it felt like speaking a new language. But it's been kind of refreshing.
When
Okay.
Helena arrived, I was constantly glancing in her direction, wondering just what she was scribbling in that thick book of hers. Now, I hardly notice her unless we're speaking. The questions haven't stopped, but thankfully, they aren't always about things like animal feces. Sometimes we just talk about something simple, like cooking. Neither of us are very good at it, but together,
Oye,
we've
no,
managed to make a few things that tasted better than plain meat. Yet, before long, my territory will be silent once more. Helena says she has to move on, and war is brewing in the south. Someone will need my sword very soon.
Perdonen la pausa, pero ¿será rico un dodo? O sea, perdonen si son vegetarianos o veganos. No, es solo suposición. ¿Sería rico un dodo comerse un dodo? Supongo que sí, por algo lo extinguimos, ¿no? Pero bueno, no extingan criaturas, no se coman criaturas, por favor.
Seems I was not the only one who was skeptical of Rockwell's ability to curb my ambitions. The nearby painted sharks mustered up the courage to harass several of our coastal fortresses, but in doing so, they confirmed their nature. During their raids, they only attacked from the air and sea. They
Hello.
patently refused
¿Se
to
llaman
set foot on
tiburones?
land. If the sharks are at home in the ocean, then I will pull our coastal forces back and attack their outposts on the
Oye,
mainland.
yo, Minerva.
Once
Ahora
their
sí va por
island
los tiburones.
fortress is cut off from the support and supplies, I can whittle it down to rubble at my leisure.
Nervita.
The war in the south is not an ordinary one. According to the member of the painted sharks that arrived to hire me, his tribe is fighting the new legion. I admit, that gave me pause. They were formidable before, and they've grown even stronger since we last met. Yet, I have grown stronger too, and the sharks were clearly in desperate straits. I could not turn them away. As I readied for war, I recalled a dream I had many months ago. I still don't believe in fate, but maybe this is my nature. On this island, maybe I can actually be like Lieutenant Guan.
Ok, los tiburones contrataron a Mei
My
Yin.
beasts are precisely what the sharks lacked. Most of their martial strength lies at sea. On land, they lacked a unit with the ferocity of a true vanguard. Without that, they could merely withstand the Legion's siege, not break it. That changed when my beast crashed into the Legion's rear
Ahí
like
está,
a
Mei
great
Yin.
wave.
Acaba
I
con
can still
Nerva.
hear the cheers as the Legion fled. I can feel the echo of the emotions that swelled in my chest. If I could return home, I imagine that is what I would feel like. I won't dare forget it.
¿Se va a enojar de una manera el Nerva?
The
Ahí
convoy
está.
was no fluke. The rider has returned, and this time we had plenty of warning. Reports of some beast queen joining forces with the sharks reached my ears days before the siege. The ranks have swelled since the convoy, but there is no doubt it is her. Not only did she help break the siege, but for the first time in its existence, the new legion is in full retreat. This cannot continue. I will not allow it. I will conquer the sharks, as I will conquer the entire ARK. But first, I must destroy the so-called queen. Li Mei Yin, the beast queen of the jungle.
Uy, le agarró el nombre.
That is the name of my foe. It is the name that I have already grown weary of, but soon I will never hear it again. It turns out that she is a mercenary, not beholden to any tribe, including the painted sharks. So, as satisfying as it may be, I need not actually defeat her. I must simply divorce her from her employers.
Uy, ¿qué va a hacer
And I
el
know
Nerva?
exactly how to do it.
Va a
The
tratar de
seeds of my
separarlos.
victory are already planted.
Tranquilín, Nerva, tranquilín, amigo.
Sometimes I fear I have grown fangs or horns without
Ese
noticing.
dibujo, güey.
What else can explain the way others look at me? In battle, the sharks cheer me, but afterwards, we rarely speak. I camp separately and only am summoned when it's time to discuss strategy. I do not understand. Trust is rare on this island, I know that. But have I not bled in their defense? Have my beasts not died fighting their battles? Perhaps it's just the strain of war. We're in Legion territory now,
No
taking the
quieren ser
battle
amigos
to
de mi
them.
Jink.
Soon the war will be won. Surely then the sharks will not fear me.
The Beast Queen is no longer a concern.
¿Qué
It was a
pasó?
simple matter, really.
¿Por qué está
A
todo en
small
llamas?
team of legionnaires planted explosives at the Sharks' camp in the dead of night, while leaving hers conspicuously untouched.
Raideo offline empezó a hacer el
Predictably,
Nerva.
the explosions drew the Beast Queen's attention, but the Sharks mistook her advance for an enemy attack. After that, it was only a matter of time before they parted ways. With that barbarian removed from the conflict, this land war will end shortly. We've already pushed the Sharks out of Legion territory. Soon, we will face them where they are strongest. The open sea.
¿Logró separar,
When
parece?
anger rises,
¿A los
think
amigos?
of the consequences.
¿O no,
I know
amigos?
this by heart, yet I cannot help but seethe with fury. Even Wu Zui is keeping his distance. Last night, I awoke to
Wu
the
Zui.
sound of thunder coming from the sharks' main camp. I rushed to their aid, but blinded by the night and consumed with panic, they attacked my pack. By the time order was restored, we had both sustained losses. Clearly this was the work of the enemy, but those fools blame me for the confusion. Some even claim I torched their camp.
Culparon a la
How dare they
Jink
question my honor after all I've
por
done.
el raideo offline del Nerva.
Cowards. They
Retror el
had
señor.
no right.
Le salió la jugada, weón.
I should have foreseen this. Though I put my pride aside, those audacious sharks could not. At their behest, I began a long trek back to my own territory this morning. They say that they will finish the war without me. Doubtful. Without my pack at the van, the new legion will surely smash them to pieces.
Cagaron. Por
But what
weones,
can
por
I do?
desconfiado.
I cannot protect them if they do not
Lamentable.
want my protection. Will the Legion come for me afterwards? I cannot say, but if they do, I know that I will receive no aid. I must rely on my own strength, and right now, I fear it insufficient. I need to become stronger. I need the
Ahí
demon
está.
king.
Anda a tamearlo, mi chic.
After going over my notes from Mei
Y
Yin's
volvemos a
camp,
Helena.
I've concluded that the animals on this island are not only used to humans, but used to captivity. Even with their accelerated growth rates, their behavior indicates that they have been regularly domesticated for decades at least.
Ok.
Otherwise, they'd never obey the whims of mankind so easily. With that in mind, I believe that my theory about this island being curated is back in play. In fact, it's possible that not only are animal populations being controlled, but that the animals themselves are genetically modified. However, before I bring this to Rockwell, there's one more rumor that I want to confirm.
Es re interesante esta cosa que
This
se la
is
Helena,
the
como para
smoking
entender
gun.
a los
It
dinos.
has to be. I simply can't be convinced that this place is natural after finding an island populated
carnívora.
entirely by carnivores. Fed off of each other, which is awfully dubious given that carnivore meat is much more likely to carry harmful parasites than herbivore meat. The landmass is so small and their population is so dense that they could never maintain it. Yet there it is, hidden away off the northeast coast of the island. Someone would have to put them there on purpose. There's no way that Rockwell can deny my theory now,
Claro, no,
as
no
I
tiene sentido que
expected,
siga existiendo esa
Rockwell
isla,
can deny
entre
my
puros
theory,
carnívoros que se maten.
but I can't say that I have his endorsement either. He didn't seem terribly engrossed in the subject, frankly. Something else seems to have captured his attention as of late. The island's obelisks. Apparently, Rockwell stumbled upon a way to interact with the towering monuments while spelunking. Of all things, I guess he felt the need to scratch that old intrepid explorer itch of his. It's pretty impressive considering his age. Now that I think about it, the obelisk could be linked to my own findings. Their nature has always been a mystery, and Rockwell made some intriguing observations. I should follow up.
After many days of scouring the island upon Archimedes, and many more fruitless conversations with the witless savage sods that seem
Con
to
el
make up
casco de
most of
minero
this
ahí.
island's population, I've finally found the spelunkers I need.
Spelunkers.
A tribe to the northwest called the Iron Brotherhood has apparently found 3 artifacts themselves.
3?
And it's clear that said relics share an origin with my own.
Mira, otra tribu que
In
está
exchange for
recolectando
my
artefactos.
artifact, the Brotherhood agreed to report any findings to me straight away as they continue their search. What stupendously good fortune. Now I can return to my alchemical studies with renewed vigor, while they crawl through the island's caverns in my stead. Brilliant.
Ese es el de el cazador, creo, ese
The
artefacto.
first round of trials for my new Lazarus chowder have gone marvelously, but I
Lazarus.
found it hard to maintain my enthusiasm.
Sopa de Lázaro, creo
After
que era.
all, I will never get truly definitive results with only Mesopithecus subjects. It's quite frustrating. Even so, I see now that Isabel was right. Having my assistants take part in the trials would be asking too much of them.
¿Y ese es
And they're
Sintak?
too valuable to risk so frivolously.
¿Vieron el
If I
otro
can't
ayudante?
find human
Es
subjects in nearby
Sintak.
tribes, then I shall have to make do with trials on apes and monkeys. Perhaps it is finally time to capture some
Familiar, un
gigantopithecus.
gigantopithecus. Muy bien, Rockwell, que no experimente en
There are
humanos.
times when it is useful to live among simpletons. For example, I was able to trade several gallons of my Lazarus chowder to a group of hunters in exchange for an entire contingent of tamed Gigantopithecus, and they never
Fácil?
questioned whether it's
Okay.
been tested on humans yet. Well, I suppose if they return with another batch of apes, then I'll know that Lazarus chowder doesn't cause asphyxiation, won't I? It's not exactly a conclusive scientific trial.
Y con los
I
gorritos.
suppose it will serve.
Re random esa wea.
Unfortunately, all these primitive primates have given Rockwell Manor quite the pungent odor. Isabel said she's working on some sort of air freshener, but I hope she makes haste. I am perplexed. Even with an expanded number of test subjects, I just cannot find the passion that I once had for my research. I truly thought that my recent adventure had lit a fire in my belly, but I constantly find myself losing focus.
Ahí está Sintak.
Confound it all! Perhaps said adventure itself is the problem. Thinking about it, I'm always eager to discuss the obelisks and the artifacts I've found with my assistants, even when I'm not in the mood for research. There is a certain allure to them that I cannot describe, something that causes my thoughts to drift in their direction, like the pull of a strong tide. But it could simply be a passing fancy. I must give myself more time. I was ever so glad to see Miss Walker again.
Es un
My
pico, un
assistants
pico.
are clever
No, no,
in their own
sáquenmelo.
right, but dear Helena is still the only person
Miembro
that I feel
viril.
comfortable
Ahí.
diving into my deeper theories with. I fear that I may have kept her from getting a word in edgewise, though. Once I got going on the obelisks, why, I just couldn't contain my enthusiasm. My word, I really have become quite enamored with the subject, haven't I? Well, that settles it. After this next set of trials, I shall go check on the Iron Brotherhood's progress. Perhaps I can convince Miss Walker to join me. We could
Los
make a
Iron
real
eso
scientific
son los que
expedition
le
out
tienen
of
los
it.
artefactos, por cierto.
Though I've been received by the Iron Brotherhood, they didn't seem very pleased to see me, especially when I mentioned Rockwell. That's a first.
La
Add that to the
Hermandad de
rather
Hierro
deserted,
Glorioso.
gloomy state of their compound, and I'm starting to feel a bit apprehensive. Their leader can't return from his hunting expedition soon enough. All I've confirmed so far is that yes, they
¿Tiene
gathered
el
all
trofeo
of
de
the
la araña ahí?
artifacts Rockwell sought, and yes, the artifacts were able to activate one of the obelisks. I
Ojo.
think they'd be celebrating such a monumental discovery, but it's just killjoys as far as the eye can see.
Oh,
Go figure. I keep glancing at the
ahí
artifacts.
está. La Brother
I
Mother.
understand why the Iron Brotherhood's leader didn't want it, since it has no apparent use. All it does is remind him of the tribesman who died seizing it from that giant spider. Can it really be useless though? They described the artifacts that activated the obelisk as looking similar to it, so I headed to the nearest obelisk to see if I could get a response. No luck. Maybe it activates something else? Of course! The platform is in the cave. It's a long shot, but it's the only thing I can think of that's similar to the obelisk. Definitely worth a try. Unbelievable! The artifacts perfectly fit one of the slots in the platform's pedestal. How did I not notice that right away?
Ok, eso no,
Really, I'm a
no está en el
dipstick.
juego. Hay que
So,
meter los
if this
trofeos de
key,
los
such as
bosses
it
en el
is,
juego.
was acquired by activating one of the obelisks, then it follows that the other 2 keys can be obtained by activating the other 2 obelisks. If the other obelisks work the way that the first one did, that means I have to find a whole mess of artifacts first. And I don't think I can do that alone.
Y aquí cada artefacto tiene un boss, por lo que se ve.
After taking the Painted Shark's last foothold on the mainland, this war has turned into one of attrition. While I construct a proper fleet, the Shark's resources will continue to dwindle, and my flyers will continue to harass their main compound. When we finally stage our invasion, their spirits will be broken, and their storehouses empty. In the meantime, I've been investigating this island's potential for naval warfare. Some sea creatures can carry a small ballista platform on their back, making them a curious sort of warship. I'm interested to see how they'll fare. Hopefully the Sharks can offer a skirmish or 2 before their will breaks completely.
Ay, perfecto.
Today shall live
Violentísimo
forever
eres,
in the
coño.
annals of history. Today I raise the new Legion flag above the Painted Shark's battered fortress. And in that moment, my empire was truly born. In that moment, the new Legion became the dominant power on this island. With that in mind, I've given my troops 3 days' respite to celebrate our victory, though I shall not take part. My work is never done, and I mustn't lose sight of my true goals. Only when I have brought this island into a new age shall I be content. Only then shall I rest.
The latest Broth of Enlightenment trials have concluded, and as expected, I am disappointed in the results.
Con ese hace también la
Though the primates I
creo.
tested it on showed increased aptitude for learning, I do not believe any of them have truly ascended to a higher level of intelligence. Well, bugger the little blighters, I say. My assistants have almost finished preparing my supplies for my next expedition, and I have drafted a letter to send to the Iron Brotherhood ahead of my departure. Soon enough, I've forgotten all about the... Pardon the interruption. It seems that I have a guest. Now, just what is Mr. Nerva doing here?
Grande cinta,
I suppose I'll
haciendo el
find
cameo
out.
ahí. Llegó Nerva.
When my scouts reported that they had finally found Rockwell's compound, I set out to meet him at once. While that meant delegating matters that others might find more pressing, I did not hesitate. Minds like Rockwell's are a precious resource on this island. To have him as an advisor would be invaluable. Whether Rockwell accepts my offer or not, my visit has already paid dividends. Apparently, he has spent some time researching the massive obelisks on this island, and theorizes that they may hold great power. If there is any chance that said power can be wielded, then I must learn all that I can about them.
Usar el obelisco como
I've
arma.
always tried to maintain a strict neutrality when it comes to tribal matters. But then again, I have never had an offer this tempting from someone as respectable as Mr. Nerva. Not only has he offered to provide me with test subjects, but he has also expressed a mutual interest in investigating the obelisks. All he asks from me is that I provide him with reliable counsel. I would trust few tribes to be able to make good on such promises, but Mr. Nerva's new legion is perhaps the most powerful tribe on the island. Indeed, if they maintain their current trajectory, they may be the only powerful tribe on the island. His offer is worth considering, at the very least.
Pero y aquí aún no conocen el elemento, al parecer. Y eso sí lo pueden ocupar como arma.
True, the new legion is not beloved by many other tribes, but was Charlemagne beloved by his enemies? If my studies are to continue, I must be on the right side of history.
Está bueno el evento ese.
As part of our agreement, I will need to travel with Mr. Nerva for a time, and wait to study the obelisks until the new legion has taken care of some smaller matters of foreign policy. As such, I have left Rockwell Manor in Isabel's charge. She will take excellent care of it, I am sure. Well then, on to new frontiers! Excelsior!
Excelsior. Eso lo decía Stan Lee. Grande Stan Lee, que descanse en paz, obviamente. Pero Spider-Man, ídolo, mis panas, ídolo. Y eso fue el capítulo de hoy, mis panas. Suscríbanse y denle like si quieren el próximo capítulo y último de The Island. Es el último, por eso este fue un poquito más largo. El próximo va a durar una media hora o más o menos así. Aquí hablé lo justo y necesario, que bueno, estoy recién aprendiendo a reaccionar y hacer estas cosas, así que ustedes déjenme en los comentarios sus sugerencias igual y sus ideas para la próxima reacción. Y pues eso, mis panas, tienen el Discord aquí abajito para que opinen de la historia de ARK, se metan a eventos, servidores y bueno, todo lo que tenemos aquí en la comunidad de Wolf, en la jauría. Así que gente, nos vemos y vayan a darle amor a Noodle. Así que gente, vayan a darle amor a Noodle de Noodle. Lo dije horrible. Y nos vemos en el siguiente capítulo. Un besito en las nalgas y adiós.